A pregnant German shepherd, trembling, choking, her swollen belly swinging in the icy wind. No footprints, no owner, only a cruel note pinned to her collar. Too dangerous, not worth keeping. When her desperate eyes met Ryan's, something in him shifted. He thought he was saving one abandoned dog, never realizing he was stepping into a story of survival, healing, and a bond that would change everything. Before we begin, tell me where you're watching from, and subscribe if this touches your heart. Ryan Walker moved through the icy expanse with the deliberate, steady gait of a man who had spent too many years scanning horizons for threats no one else could see. At 42, he carried the rugged strength of a seasoned soldier, but also the exhaustion etched by wars that had never truly ended for him. His face was angular, defined by a squared jaw coated with several days of salt and pepper stubble. His skin bore the windburn of countless winters, and his blue-gray eyes, once sharp with military precision, now held a quiet vigilance, the kind that comes from surviving without fully living. A faded green military jacket hugged his broad shoulders, the same jacket he had worn on his final deployment to Afghanistan, where an ambush cost him 3 comrades and the last pieces of the man he used to be. Beside him trotted Rex, his 5-year-old male German shepherd. Rex was large and muscular, with a thick black and tan coat and alert amber eyes. He walked with a disciplined posture that revealed he had once belonged to a K-9 training program, one he had been discharged from for being too gentle. Ryan had adopted him afterward, sensing in the dog a loyalty so deep it felt like a vow, a loyalty Ryan secretly wished he could still give to something or someone. The wind sliced across the open field, carrying the metallic groan of old pump jacks, towering iron beasts rusting in silence. Ryan often walked here in the mornings to clear his mind. The oil rigs reminded him of the machinery of war, tall, skeletal, forgotten. Rex sniffed the frozen ground, ears flicking at every shifting gust. Ryan exhaled a cloud of white into the frigid air and rubbed his palms together. "Cold one, huh, buddy?" he murmured, though he didn't expect an answer. Talking to Rex was easier than talking to people. But then Rex froze. His ears shot forward, his body stiffening in a pose Ryan recognized instantly. Alert, confused, maybe afraid. Ryan followed the dog's gaze toward a tangle of metal beams where an old oil rig stood crooked like a dying animal. At first, he saw only a dark shape swaying gently in the wind. Then the shape twitched. Ryan's breath hitched, not in fear, but in that sharp, instinctive tension that soldiers carried long after the battlefield. He stepped closer, boots crunching over crusted snow, his hand subconsciously tightening on the handle of the small survival knife sheathed at his waist. And then he saw her. Hanging from a steel beam by a rope looped tight around her neck was a pregnant German shepherd, her belly swollen, heavy, a trembling mound of life barely held together. Her fur, black and tan, thick but matted, hung in clumps. Frost had gathered on her whiskers. Her hind legs barely brushed the beam beneath her, toes scraping helplessly. Every shallow gasp cut through the winter air like a wounded cry. Ryan's heart lurched. Something primal, fierce, protective. Rex barked anxiously, circling below the rig, whining, with urgency, as if begging Ryan to hurry. The shepherd hanging above them opened her eyes, wide, golden, and full of a terror so raw it pierced straight into Ryan's chest. The moment their eyes met, she stopped thrashing. She seemed to plead without sound, clinging to the thin thread of hope that the man in the green coat could save her. A filthy scrap of paper flapped weakly against her collar. Ryan reached up and grabbed it. "Her name is Luna. Too dangerous. Can't keep her." Dangerous. The trembling creature before him looked anything but. Anger flared in Ryan, not hot and wild but cold, controlled, the kind he felt during missions where failure meant death. Whoever had done this had condemned not just a dog, but the unborn lives inside her. He swallowed hard, steadying himself. "It's okay, girl," he whispered, voice low, steady, the way he spoke to wounded soldiers who needed anchoring. "I've got you." He gripped the icy framework of the pump jack and climbed. The metal was slick beneath his gloves, and the height awakened a ghost of memory. Scrambling up a cliff face under gunfire, the taste of dust, the weight of fear pounding through him. His breath fogged the cold air as he reached up, fingers shaking, whether from the cold or the memory he couldn't tell. Rex barked louder. "I know, buddy," Ryan muttered. He reached the rope. His knife flashed in the pale light. One precise slice. The rope snapped. Luna fell, and Ryan caught her full weight against his chest. Her swollen belly knocked the air from him, but he held her tight, using his own body to break the fall as they slid down the angled beam and into the snow. She convulsed in his arms, gasping, trembling violently, but alive. "Easy, easy, you're okay," he whispered, brushing a gloved hand over her head. Up close, she smelled of dirt, fear, and long nights without shelter. But beneath all of that, he felt a faint warmth, stubborn, fragile life refusing to fade. Rex pressed his muzzle against Luna's side, whining softly. She didn't flinch. She simply closed her eyes, as if surrendering to safety for the first time in her life. Ryan looked up at the rusted metal tower above them, the brutal wind sweeping past. 3 lives had walked near death today. Now, in the middle of a frozen field of forgotten machines, a new thread of fate had been tied. Between a broken soldier, his loyal companion, and the terrified mother-to-be lying trembling in his arms. And none of them would ever be the same again. A pale winter sun pressed weakly against the windshield of Ryan Walker's battered pickup as he sped through the icy streets of Williston. One gloved hand gripping the steering wheel, the other steadying the trembling mass of fur on the passenger seat. Luna lay limp, her breaths shallow but present, her swollen belly rising unevenly beneath her matted coat. Rex paced anxiously in the truck bed, his paws tapping nervously against the metal as if urging the truck to move faster. Snow lashed sideways in thin, bitter sheets, turning every intersection into a mirror of freezing danger. Ryan leaned forward, squinting through the fogging windshield, jaw tight with worry. Memories of carrying wounded comrades across desert roads flickered through his mind, and with each flicker he pressed harder on the gas. He would not lose her, not after pulling her back from the edge. The small brick building finally emerged through the haze. Miller Veterinary Care, the only clinic open in town on a morning like this. Its faded blue sign looked almost apologetic against the heavy sky. Ryan parked crookedly and flung open his door. He wrapped Luna in his jacket, lifting her carefully, feeling her heartbeat flutter against his chest like a weakened drum. As he stepped inside, warm air brushed his face, carrying the sharp scent of antiseptic mixed with pine-scented cleaner. Behind the counter stood Dr. Grace Miller, a woman in her late 50s with a tall, slender frame wrapped in a denim apron dusted with stray white hairs. Her silver hair was pulled into a loose bun, its escaping strands giving her an air of constant motion. Her face was narrow, her cheekbones high, her gray eyes sharp yet impossibly gentle. Grace had earned a reputation in Williston for saving the animals no one else would. Orphans, strays, and the forgotten. A rumor said she once fought off a wolf with only a broom, though she always denied it with a tired smile. Years of working with wounded creatures had made her patient, but unyieldingly honest. "What have you got there, Ryan?" she asked, her voice a rough whisper shaped by countless winter mornings. "A German shepherd," he answered softly. "Pregnant, hung from a rig. She's barely breathing." Grace's eyes widened only briefly. She learned long ago to keep her reactions controlled for the sake of the ones who brought wounded lives to her door. "Bring her into exam room 2, she instructed, already moving. Ryan laid Luna gently on the stainless steel table. Grace's hands moved with practiced calm, checking her gums, the rope burns, the severe bruising hidden beneath clumps of fur, and finally, the trembling mound of her belly. She pressed her stethoscope to Luna's side, leaning in closely, her brows knitted. She's been beaten, starved, and the hanging, it nearly crushed her airway. She paused, her voice tightening. But her heart is strong, and so are the pups. This girl fought to stay alive. Ryan felt something loosen in his chest. Relief. Rage. Guilt that he hadn't arrived sooner. His fingers hovered over Luna's head, brushing the soft spot between her ears. Beyond the doorway, a small voice whispered, "Is she going to die?" Ryan turned. Standing in the waiting room was a girl of about 9, wrapped in a pink parka almost too large for her. She held a small rabbit carrier against her chest, as if shielding it from the cold. Her name, as he would soon learn, was Lily Foster. Lily had straight ash-blonde hair tied in uneven pigtails, and her freckled cheeks flushed pink from the cold. Her pale blue eyes shimmered with the fragile courage of a child raised between kindness and quiet loneliness. Next to her stood her mother, Emily Foster, a slender woman in her 30s with shoulder-length brown hair tucked behind tired eyes. Emily wore a long beige coat that failed to hide how thin she'd become. Life had not been easy since her husband left, and worry clung to her like a second layer of clothing. "Stay back, Lily," Emily murmured, though her voice was more anxious than firm. "That's the dog they found hanging at the oil field. She could be dangerous." But Lily didn't step back. Instead, she stepped forward. Grace gave a subtle nod. "Let her." Ryan held his breath as Lily reached out her small hand. Luna lifted her head just enough for her nose to brush Lily's fingers. Her breath, warm and trembling, fogged in the girl's palm. Lily's eyes softened. "She's not mean," the girl whispered. "She's scared, and she's hurting." Silence filled the room, not uncomfortable but reverent, as though even the snow outside had paused to listen. Emily stared, surprised, something like shame warming her cheeks. Grace straightened, wiping her hands on a towel. "Children always see the truth first," she murmured. Ryan looked at Luna, this battered, trembling mother-to-be, and felt the weight of Lily's words settle deeply inside him. Even when the world had tried to destroy her, she still reached toward the smallest hand offered to her. Grace broke the quiet. "Ryan, she'll need rest and warmth. I'll keep her for a few hours for fluids and monitoring, but after that, she'd do better with someone she trusts." He knew what she was asking without her saying it. Rex nudged Ryan's leg, as if volunteering for the responsibility. Ryan nodded slowly. "She can come with me." Grace smiled, the tired, grateful kind that belonged to people who had witnessed too many small miracles. "Good. She'll stay alive because of that choice." As Ryan walked back toward the exam table, Luna's eyes fluttered open. She looked at him, not with fear now, but with quiet recognition, a fragile acceptance of the man who had lifted her from death's grasp. It felt like the first step of something neither of them understood yet, but both somehow needed. Snow drifted silently around the small wooden cabin as Ryan Walker carried Luna through the doorway, her heavy pregnant belly resting against his arm, her breath warm but faint against his chest. He nudged the door shut with his shoulder, letting the muted glow of the fireplace spill across the room. The cabin, modest and hand-built by Ryan over the last 3 years, smelled of pine, old books, and the faint, lingering scent of machine oil. It sat on a gentle rise overlooking the abandoned oil fields, dark silhouettes against the white horizon, like rusted giants bowing in the cold. Rex entered first, tail low but wagging softly, circling the blankets Ryan had laid out earlier near the hearth. The 5-year-old shepherd sniffed the area with purposeful curiosity, then looked up at Ryan as if approving the arrangement. Ryan lowered Luna onto the blanket. She shifted uncomfortably, letting out a soft groan as her large belly pressed awkwardly against the floor. He placed a folded towel under her chest to ease the strain. "There you go, girl," he murmured, brushing a hand gently along her neck, avoiding the healing rope burns. Luna's golden eyes fluttered with exhaustion, but beneath the fear still lingered a spark, the quiet resilience that had carried her through cruelty no creature deserved. Ryan sat back on his heels, exhaling slowly. His bones ached, not from the cold, but from the weight of responsibility settling onto him fully. He had taken care of many wounded comrades in the past, patching wounds under gunfire, stabilizing blood flow during medevacs. But this was different. Luna wasn't a soldier. She was a mother on the edge of survival, and she trusted him with the fragile life inside her. The trust unnerved him and warmed him at the same time. Hours passed. Outside, the wind thickened, carving icy swirls against the cabin walls. Ryan busied himself by making soup, simple venison broth and potatoes, and warming water on the stove to clean Luna's wounds. While he worked, Rex sat beside her, occasionally nudging her with a gentle, protective whine. Luna, despite her exhaustion, pressed her muzzle weakly against Rex's cheek in response. It was the first sign of ease Ryan had seen from her. As evening deepened, the fire crackled brighter. Ryan sat on the old brown couch that sagged slightly in the center, a relic from a neighbor who moved to Arizona and wanted no more snow in his life. Ryan's green jacket hung loosely on him now as he leaned back, letting the warmth seep into his muscles. He watched Luna breathe, watched Rex curl up near her belly like a silent guardian. For a moment, he felt something he hadn't felt in years: stillness. But stillness, for Ryan, was always the prelude to a storm within. Sleep began to wrap around him like a heavy blanket. His eyes closed. The explosion hit first, not in the cabin, but in his mind, sand erupting, smoke choking the air, the metallic taste of blood mixing with dust. He saw Marcus, broad-shouldered, bearded, always joking, even under fire, fall forward, eyes wide with surprise before going empty. He heard the screaming, the crack of rifles, felt the heat of shrapnel tearing the air. Ryan jerked in his sleep, breath catching sharply. The cabin dissolved into desert. The fire became flames from a burning Humvee. The snow became ash. Then he heard his own voice cry out, a strangled, broken sound he didn't recognize. Ryan shot upright, drenched in sweat, lungs clawing for air. His hands shook violently as he pressed them against his face. The room spun, the fire crackled, and still, for a moment, he couldn't tell where he was. Then came the soft sound, the gentle clatter of claws across the wooden floor. Rex reached him first. The German shepherd pushed his head under Ryan's trembling arm, whining softly, those amber eyes steady and grounding. Ryan grabbed fistfuls of Rex's fur as if anchoring himself to reality. His breath eased, but only slightly. A second presence approached, slower, heavier. Luna. Despite the strain of her swollen belly, she dragged herself closer and gently pressed the top of her head against Ryan's knee. Her breath puffed in tiny clouds. She let out a soft, rumbling hum of concern. Ryan froze. Not out of fear, but out of disbelief. Luna had barely moved in hours. Yet now, hurting and exhausted as she was, she had chosen to comfort him. His vision blurred, not from the nightmare, but from the warmth that pierced through the cold inside him. "Hey," he whispered, voice gravelly. "You two. You're something else." He tried to steady his breathing, but the tremors in his hands returned. Luna let out a small grunt as she attempted to adjust her position. Her belly made her movement clumsy, and when she tried to sit, she got stuck halfway. letting out a frustrated groan that sounded almost like a complaint. Ryan blinked, and then, unexpectedly, laughed. A small laugh at first, then a larger one choked with the remnants of tears. Luna huffed, annoyed at her inability to be graceful, and Rex nudged her gently as if reassuring her she was doing just fine. "Yeah, I get it," Ryan said softly, wiping his eyes. "Carrying that belly around is its own kind of battlefield." The fire popped, casting warm light across the trio. Luna leaned more heavily against Ryan's leg, her weight a comforting presence. Rex lay beside them, his tail sweeping slow arcs across the floor. Their breathing, uneven at first, began to sync, 3 rhythms blending into one. The wind howled outside, violent and cold, but inside the cabin, warmth pooled around them like a shelter no storm could touch. For the first time in years, the darkness didn't swallow Ryan whole. For the first time in years, he wasn't alone in the night. And as the fire glowed warmly over Luna's resting form and Rex's quiet watchfulness, Ryan realized something he hadn't allowed himself to believe in a long time. Maybe healing didn't require forgetfulness. Maybe it required company. Warm, loyal, steadfast company that refused to leave, even when the nightmares came. Tonight, in the small cabin on the edge of the silent oil fields, 3 battered souls breathed as one, and the long white night finally felt survivable. The late winter wind swept across Williston, with a cold so sharp it felt alive, needling through coats and slipping under collars, as if determined to remind every living thing that spring was still far away. 3 weeks had passed since Ryan Walker brought Luna home, and though the frost still clung thickly to the abandoned oil fields, life inside the small cabin had begun to warm in quiet, unexpected ways. Luna had gained weight, healthy weight this time, her once concave sides now rounded with the promise of new life. Her belly swung heavily as she walked, but her steps were steadier than before. Rex, ever protective, stayed glued to her side, as if guarding both mother and unborn pups. Ryan had spent those weeks nursing her back, cleaning wounds, feeding her small meals, and speaking to her in that low, steady voice that seemed to soothe her. He didn't fully understand how deeply he'd grown attached, but he felt it. In the way he checked her breathing at night, in the way he caught himself smiling when she nudged his hand for comfort. Williston, despite its icy roads and harsh winters, had softened something in all of them. That afternoon, the sky hung low, gray and heavy, threatening snow. Ryan took Luna and Rex for their slow daily walk along the long stretch of oil road, where old rigs loomed like forgotten relics of another era. The snow on the ground had frozen into thin sheets of ice, glazing the road with a treacherous shine. Ryan kept Luna close, mindful of her swollen belly, while Rex scouted ahead with alert ears and a tail waving in slow, steady sweeps. In the distance, a bright red shape bounced across the snowy field, a child's ball. Moments later, a small boy appeared, chasing it with frantic energy. He was maybe 7, wearing a puffy blue coat, mismatched gloves, and a wool hat that had slipped halfway over his eyes. His bare cheeks were flushed pink with cold and excitement. His name, Ryan would soon learn, was Ethan Brooks, a curious, fast-moving kid who seemed to believe the world around him would always pause to let him catch up. Ethan kicked the ball again, sending it skidding onto the icy road. Behind him, a young woman shouted, "Ethan, stop!" Her voice cracked with fear. She was in her early 30s, slim and slightly hunched from exhaustion, her denim jacket too thin for the biting cold. Wisps of dark brown hair escaped her beanie, and her light brown eyes were wide with panic. This was Mara Brooks, a single mother who worked double shifts at the nearby supply depot. She carried a weariness in her face, the kind left behind by long nights, too many bills, and raising a child on her own. But her voice carried fierce love. Ryan saw the danger before anyone else did. A large white industrial truck, its front bumper dusted with frozen mud, and its trailer stacked with drilling equipment, rounded the bend too fast, its tires slipping on the icy patch. The vehicle skidded sideways. The driver, a Pufong, broad-shouldered man in a yellow reflective jacket named Bill Harker, fighting desperately for control. Bill was in his late 40s, with a weathered face and deep creases carved from 20 years in the oil fields. He was usually careful, reliable, the type who'd give his lunch to a stray dog. But on ice like this, even the best drivers were helpless. The truck's tires screamed. Ryan shouted, "Kid, move!" But Ethan had already run after his ball, oblivious to the danger, boots sliding across the ice. Before Ryan could sprint forward, Luna lunged. It shocked him, how fast she moved considering her heavy belly. She charged with a sudden, fierce surge of instinct, her paws digging into the snow as she barreled toward Ethan. Rex barked in alarm but followed close behind, ready to intervene. Luna slammed her body into Ethan's side, knocking him out of the truck's path, just as the massive vehicle skidded across the slick road. The edge of the trailer missed Luna by mere inches. Snow and ice blasted into the air as the truck fishtailed violently before coming to a shuddering stop a few yards ahead. Ryan reached them, heart hammering. Ethan was crying but unharmed, his palms scraped from the ice. Luna lay in front of him, panting hard, her belly trembling from exertion. Rex barked furiously, as if cursing both the truck and the weather for daring to endanger them. Mara sprinted toward her son, slipping slightly on the ice. She collapsed next to Ethan, pulling him into her arms, tears streaking down her wind-reddened cheeks. "Oh my God! Ethan! Thank you, thank you!" Then she looked at Luna, really looked at her, and something inside her broke further. She reached out with shaking hands, running her fingers through the shepherd's thick fur. "You saved my boy. You saved him." People from the nearby pipeline crew had gathered, men in thick jackets and heavy boots, faces sunburned and bearded, rough in appearance but gentle in spirit. One of them, a stocky man with frost in his beard, whispered, "Ain't that the dog they found hanging on a rig last month?" Another replied quietly, awe in his voice, "Yeah, and she's a hero now." Ryan knelt beside Luna, gently stroking her ears. She looked up at him, eyes exhausted but proud. Mara hugged Ryan suddenly, surprising him. "Thank you for letting her be here. If she hadn't—" Her voice cracked. Ryan shook his head. "She did it. All her." Around them, the workers murmured admiringly, sharing the story that would spread through town by nightfall. The pregnant shepherd who had survived an oil rig hanging only to save a child weeks later. What once had been a symbol of cruelty now became a symbol of hope. Williston had a new name for her, Miracle Mom. Night settled heavily across the snow-covered plains of Williston. The kind of night where the cold seeped into the bones and the silence felt almost watchful. Inside Ryan Walker's small cabin, the fire crackled softly, casting warm amber light across the floor, where Luna slept curled near the hearth. Her belly, round and taut with life, rose and fell in slow, steady rhythms. Rex lay beside her like a vigilant sentry, ears flicking at every distant sound. Ryan sat at the kitchen table sharpening a pocket knife, not out of need, but out of habit, a grounding ritual he carried home from the war. He wore his green jacket loosely, his stubble catching the firelight, his blue-gray eyes softer tonight than they had been in years. But peace in Ryan's world never lasted long. A sudden pounding shook the front door, 3 heavy hits strong enough to rattle the windows. Rex leapt up with a deep growl. Luna raised her head sharply, fear widening her golden eyes. Ryan stood slowly, instincts honed by battle slipping back into place. He opened the door. Icy wind blasted in, carrying the sour reek of whiskey. And there, swaying on the porch, stood Derek Crowley, Luna's former owner, the man who had hung her on the oil rig. Derek, in his late 30s, looked older than he should. His face was rough, unshaven for days, his eyes red and unfocused. His dark hair hung in filthy strands beneath a battered brown jacket. Bitterness lived in every line of his face, the kind carved by violence, failure, and too much alcohol. "I hear my dog's famous now," Derek slurred. "Return her, she's mine." Ryan stepped into the doorway, blocking his view inside. "She's not yours anymore." Derek let out an ugly laugh. "I raised her, and then you nearly killed her," Ryan said quietly. "Luna is family now." Derek's expression twisted with rage. He lurched forward, grabbing a rock from the porch railing. Before Ryan could react, Derek hurled it at the window. Glass shattered, spraying the floor inside. Luna yelped. Rex barked explosively, teeth bared. Derek reached through the broken window, trying to grab Luna. Ryan's chest tightened with an old, violent memory. An ambush, a bloodied comrade, screams lost under gunfire. "Enough!" Ryan roared, grabbing Derek's wrist and shoving him back with precise, controlled force. Derek stumbled into the snow. The commotion drew attention. Porch lights flicked on up and down the road. First to arrive was Hank Dawson, Ryan's neighbor, a tall, broad-shouldered rancher in his late 60s. Hank carried the calm strength of a man who'd spent his life breaking horses and fixing broken fences. His steel-gray hair glinted under his hat as he marched forward, flashlight in hand. "What the hell is happening here?" Hank demanded. Within moments, a sheriff's cruiser rumbled up the snowy road. Deputy Karen Holt stepped out, a solid woman in her early 40s with sharp hazel eyes, auburn, hair pulled tight, and a stance that warned she had seen far too many cruelty cases. "Crowley," she said coldly, "hands where I can see them." Derek flailed. "They stole my dog." "She's not yours," Karen snapped. "And you just committed trespassing, vandalism, and attempted animal theft. You're coming with me." She cuffed him efficiently and shoved him into the cruiser as he cursed into the storm. Silence followed as the red-blue lights disappeared down the road. Ryan knelt beside Luna. She trembled but managed to press her head against his leg. "You're safe," he whispered. "No one's taking you anywhere." Hank placed a steady hand on his shoulder. "You did right, son." 2 days later, the cabin filled with tiny cries. Luna gave birth to 6 healthy puppies, warm, soft bundles of new life. Ryan tried to help, but was so clumsy with towels and warm water that Hank nearly choked laughing. "You've handled explosives," Hank teased, "but you're scared of 6 squeaking puppies?" Ryan didn't deny it. He was terrified and happier than he'd been in years. By spring, Luna had recovered. Rex acted like a proud uncle, and Ryan found a new purpose. With Dr. Grace Miller's help, he started a small rescue program near the old oil fields, taking in abandoned dogs, training them, and pairing them with veterans fighting invisible battles of their own. People in Williston called it small. Williston called it something else. The Williston Miracle. Sometimes the greatest miracles don't come with thunder or angels in the sky. Sometimes they arrive on 4 trembling paws, wrapped in fear, hope, and a heartbeat that refuses to quit. Luna was never meant to survive that frozen oil rig. Ryan was never meant to find her. But God has a way of stitching broken lives together in the most unexpected places. Oil fields, lonely cabins, quiet hearts on the edge of giving up. Maybe that's the reminder we all need today. That even when the world feels cold, even when life hurts more than we can admit, God still sends small miracles to guide us home. Miracles that teach us to breathe again, trust again, love again. If this story touched your heart in any way, please share it with someone who might need a reminder that hope still exists. Leave a comment below. Tell us where you're watching from. Tell us what part moved you the most. And if you believe in second chances, in the quiet goodness of ordinary people, and in the miracles God places in our path, hit subscribe so more stories of faith, compassion, and unexpected grace can find their way to you. May God bless you, protect your home, and place a little miracle in your life today. just as he did for Ryan, Rex, and Luna.